Hello, creeps. I'll be with you in a moment. I was just in the middle of cramming for my final exams. Bet you didn't know your pal, the Crypt Keeper, was still in school. As a matter of fact, I'm at the top of my class at Harvard. Which brings us to tonight's all-frighter. It concerns a couple of college kids who've got their own ideas about higher education. In a bit of hackademia I call Creep Course.
The 18th dynasty produced some of the greatest rulers ever to hold the throne of Egypt. These immensely powerful pharaohs commanded loyalty and fear throughout an empire that stretched from Nubia in the south to the borders of northern Syria. Which brings us to the legend of the pharaoh Ramses, also known as the mummy who wouldn't die. It seems that old Ramses was a possessive and jealous sort of fellow, and the object of his obsession was a beautiful young maiden, the Princess Nefra. Unfortunately, Ramses tossed his mortal coil before actually consummating his relationship with the lovely Nefra. So, despite his newly acquired status as an embalmed and mummified corpse, he emerged from his tomb on the anniversary of his death and each year after to search the city for the Princess Nefra. Needless to say, Ramses' jealous disposition and bad temper had not improved in death. And the local citizens so feared and dreaded his annual rampage that they were forced to arrive at a drastic solution. Each year, a maiden was delivered to Ramses' tomb, a human sacrifice. Each time, the crazed old mummy would expect to see his beloved Nefra standing before him, and each time he would be disappointed. Exploding in anger, he vented his rage upon the innocent young woman in a manner really too horrible to describe. But it kept the old boy off the street. So, remember, scholars, midterm exam on Friday, covering the first 3 Egyptian kingdoms. And what are those kingdoms again, Mr. Skolnick?
The first 3 kingdoms, those would be...
We're waiting, Mr. Skolnick. You have us on the edge of our seats. And feel free to consult your notes or your playbook or whatever that is you have in front of you.
I think 1 is the second dynasty.
Kingdoms, Mr. Skolnick, not dynasties. The first 3 kingdoms.
I don't know, sir.
Miss Bishop, will you please give Mr. Numbskull, I beg your pardon, Mr. Skolnick, the answer to the question he is struggling to recall from his memory of mush?
Early dynastic, old kingdom, and first intermediate period.
Did you hear that, Mr. Skolnick? Are you listening? Do I, at long last, have your attention?
Yes, sir.
If you fail to pass this test, Mr. Skolnick, you will be ineligible to participate in the one activity at which you truly excel. And although I personally rank football below keel hauling,
Yes, it is.
Reggie Skolnick.
You are.
Working hard, I see, huh?
It's just a couple hours a day. You know, it's more convenient working on campus than off, and Excuse me. That'll be 4 and 7.
Professor Finley's really on my case, isn't he? I mean, how do you like the way he treats me in class?
Well, it wasn't.
I mean, I've got feelings, too. I mean, it was pretty embarrassing for me.
Yeah, I could see that.
Now, Stella, I'm gonna flunk that midterm unless you help me.
Me?
Will you, Stella? Please?
I don't know.
Please, 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 Stella? Come on, you know the subject inside and out. It would mean a lot to me.
Well, I suppose I could help you study. That's what I'm really good at. I mean, I'm not a brain or anything, but I do take excellent notes. I mean, we could go over them together if that's what you mean.
Is later this afternoon okay?
Yeah. Well, where should we meet?
Let's meet in the library. Let's say 3 o'clock?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, great. It's a date then. I'll see you, Stella.
Okay. Bye.
Hi.
Sorry I'm late.
Oh, you are? Oh, I didn't even notice. You didn't bring any stuff?
That's okay.
That's okay. I have everything we need. I've got pens, I've got paper, I've got the work. And
Stella, this isn't gonna work.
What?
Studying won't help me. I'm just not cut out for it. I've tried. I mean, I really have. But that never seems to stick. Finley's right. I mean, the only thing I'm good at is football.
Sure. I understand.
Stella, wait. Now, there is something you can do for me. Now, Finley keeps a collection of old Egyptian stuff at his house. You could make an appointment to go over there, have a look at this junk for extra credit or something. He'd go for it in a second. You could do it tomorrow night.
Why would I want to do that?
Because when you have him distracted, I'm gonna go in there and make a copy of the midterm.
I couldn't do that.
You know, everybody looks at me and they think I've got it made. Like I don't have a care in the world. But they're wrong, Stella. I'm really scared. Football's the only future I've got, and it's about to go down the drain.
But it would be wrong.
If anybody gets in trouble, it'll be me, not you. And I promise you, Stella, I will protect you. And nobody will know. Now, after the game, there's going to be a party, just for the team. And I want you to come with me. I want you to be my date.
No, you don't. You don't want to go with me.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't. Why would you want to take me?
Why wouldn't I? Because you're Stella the bookworm? Stella the wallflower? Huh? That's what they think, isn't it? But they're wrong, aren't they? Just like they're wrong about me.
No, not altogether.
I see who you really are, Stella. I see what everybody else misses?
Well, I can't see at all without my glasses.
Ah, Miss Bishop, how nice to see you.
Good evening, Professor Finley.
Please, come in.
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to come over.
Oh, don't be silly. My home is always open to my students. I just wish more of them had your interest and curiosity. Let's just go downstairs. I've got everything ready.
Downstairs?
Yeah, in the cellar. Right this way.
This is like a museum.
Well, my grandfather was one of the first archaeologists to explore the tombs in the Valley of the Kings. All of these artifacts are really very valuable.
This is incredible. What's this?
You have a good eye, my dear. That's the pride and joy of my collection. An actual burial chamber, completely intact.
A tomb?
That's right. Look inside.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Oh, nonsense. It's the best part. Go on in.
Oh, it's cold.
Yeah, you get used to it.
How did the torches get lit?
Well, like I said, everything's ready.
I should go.
Bullshit.
Reggie! Reggie, help me!
Finley, you son of a bitch.
Reggie, help me, please!
What's the matter with you? Can't you do anything right?
Hey, what? This isn't funny. Open up.
Women are getting stronger these days, aren't they? Must be that damn workout trend.
Just out of shape.
Fuck you, Jocko.
Look, let's get out of here.
Got one thing to do first.
Come on, let me out. This isn't funny, man.
Let's go upstairs. I need a drink.
Don't you know who I am? It's me. Princess Nephra. Princess Nephra.
That is my grandfather, Flinders Finley. What an archaeologist. That grave-robbing son of a bitch looted tombs up and down the Nile. Ramseth's been in our family for 3 generations now. Passed on from father to son. Sort of a sacred trust.
Curse is more like it. Why'd you just burn the whole house down?
You idiot. Ramseth is a living connection with ancient Egypt. The greatest treasure in all of antiquity, and he's mine. The only problem is that maidens are getting harder and harder to find these days.
Sick. You are very sick.
You look like a malt liquor man to me, Skolnick, but try this anyway. Cheers.
Okay, Doc. I've lived up to my end of the deal. It's time you live up to yours.
What's your hurry? Slow down, relax, enjoy your drink.
Hand over the midterm first.
If you insist.
C plus.
Surely you don't expect a better grade than that.
No, the grade's fine. It just isn't enough.
What are you talking about?
I believe I have you over a very large barrel here. And I bet that some of that stuff you have hoarded away downstairs is worth a small fortune.
Well, you miserable little rat turd. Are you trying to blackmail me?
Just think of it as a last-minute renegotiation.
But, I like the original terms.
Ah, but I don't. No, in the classroom, you run the show. Now, I'm calling the shots.
You really don't listen during class, do you, Reggie?
Yeah, well, this isn't school anymore, Finley.
Not even during the lecture on the ancient art of embalming, as I recall. Even the dimmest bovine-brained nitwit usually perks up during the embalming lecture. It's just so gross.
What's your point?
Do you recall what I said this instrument was used for? For removing the brain through the nose.
I'm impressed. Are you done?
Not yet. Do you remember, Reggie, how the ancient embalmers removed the other internal organs?
Who cares?
They would mix a potion, call it a drink, which they would pour down the corpse's throat. After a short time, the organs would dissolve into a thick sludge which would ooze from the body through the mouth and the ass.
You're trying to psych me out.
No, Reggie. I'm trying to kill you.
Wait a minute. You drank it too, Professor.
Did I? Did you see me pour both drinks from the same decanter? No, of course not. How could you? You weren't paying attention as usual.
Son of a bitch.
Reggie, how embarrassing. You look like the poster boy for Depends. history and science. All right. What the hell is... Stella. You're alive.
Call me Princess Nephra. He does.
I don't believe this. This is impossible.
I'm the perfect student. I listen in class. I take excellent notes.
What?
I listen in class to your stupid, boring lectures. I write down every word you say. So I figured it out. The legend of Ramseth and Nephra. The mummy wouldn't die, all that shit. I remembered it all. So I played along with this sack of rags, and boy, was he happy to see me. Do you understand what I am saying?
You mean that you and he...
Yes.
Gee.
How could you do this to me?
Just keep your voice down. I think it's upsetting him. No, it's okay.
You know, there was something else you said in class. About how jealous Ramseth was. Let's see if you were right.
No, don't, Stella.
Oh, Professor Finley, one little kissy-wissy for your favorite
No, Stella.
Your favorite student.
No.
Look what I found.
Oh, no.
I'm Edna Kuhn, Dean of Women. This is Stella Bishop.
What's going on?
My name is Detective Connors, Miss Bishop.
Is there something wrong?
I'm afraid so. It's about your class project.
Did I get a good grade?
Let's go, Stella. We'll talk about it downtown.
I guess that's a wrap for Reggie and Professor Finley. You know what they say, kiddies? Nephra, say Nephra again. As for me, I've got to get back to my corpse catalog and decide on a major. I thought about going pre-dead, but I think I'd be better at shriekonomics.
Welcome aboard Tales from the Crypt Scare Lines, Flight 666, offering direct service from your living room straight to hell. As we will be experiencing some turbulence, we recommend that you keep your seatbelts fastened and your vomit bags handy. So slip on your dead set and get ready for tonight's in-fright entertainment.
It's a nasty tale about my favorite kind of ghouls. Dreadheads. I call it Came the Dawn.
Can't fool me with your Boy Scout smile. I know exactly what you're doing, and I'm not gonna do a thing to stop you. Right now, you're undressing me with your eyes, aren't you? Wouldn't it be more fun to do it with your hands? Hold that thought. But I go to the ladies' room, and we can get out of here. Oh my God. Oh my God, you're so big. Oh my God, you're so. Excuse me. There's somebody in here. Hello? It's Occupato. Could you turn the light back on, please? Hello? There's somebody in here. What are you, fucking deaf?
I'm out, but I'd really love to hear from you, so please leave a message. That is, unless it's you, Roger. In which case, don't leave a message. Just stay out of my life, you bastard.
Hi, it's Roger. I wish you wouldn't leave messages like that for everybody in the world to hear. I'm on my way up to the cabin and, frankly, I'm bored stiff without you. Now, I know I haven't been a very good boy lately, but you know, I was hoping you could come up here and we could kind of work things out.
Miss, can I help you?
I don't know what's wrong with this stupid truck. What a night to break down.
I wish I could help you. I don't know anything about cars. Do you want to get in here and warm up, and I'll call a mechanic for you?
Yeah.
are.
Thank you. Here, put this on.
Thank you.
Oh,
Well, I don't want to get it wet.
oh, I'm not worried. You know, I really don't think there's going to be a garage open this time of night. Do you want me to just take you back to where you live?
If you feel like driving all the way into the city, that's where I live. Damn. Do you know where the bus leaves around here?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. The last one left a few hours ago. This just really isn't your night, is it?
No.
The inn isn't far from here. Do you want me to call and book you a room?
No. No, I couldn't afford it. But hey, thanks a lot for trying. Really, I'll just sleep in my truck tonight and I'll just get some help in the morning, okay?
Oh, no. Look. Actually, now I'm not trying to be forward or anything. But my cabin's pretty large. I'd be grateful for the company, actually.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm positive.
All right.
My name is Roger, by the way. What's yours?
Oh, Norma.
Are you kidding me?
No.
It's incredible. Well, listen to this.
Yeah, so?
This has got to mean something. It's Norma, the Druid Priestess. It's one of the greatest operas in the world.
Opera?
Well, it's personal weakness. I like to curl up at night with a bottle of red wine, listen to opera, and sob. It's not a pretty sight.
What are we stopping here for?
Well, I'm just gonna pick up a few things for dinner. Do you like oysters?
Never had them.
Oh, you're gonna love them. I'd leave the heater on for you.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. You gotta do something about it, Dave. Yeah.
Hey, Ed.
Hi, Raj.
Yeah, do you have any crystal here?
Yeah, I do.
Great.
I gotta go, Dave. I'll call you later, okay? Okay, bye. You believe that, my friend Dave? Somebody stole his truck last night.
You kidding?
This place is getting worse than this city. You hear about that lady who got killed a few nights back?
Somebody got killed?
Yeah. In the woman's toilet over the restaurant. Chopped her up like a roasted chicken. Hacked off her arms, split her right up the middle.
Jesus, Ed.
State bulls don't got a clue. Bunch of morons. You know what I think? It's the same guy who took Dave's truck. I dare that bastard to come in here. I'll put a hole in him the size of a Buick. I'll have to take him down to the morgue in a bucket. Is there anything else that you need?
Yeah, some oysters. You have any of those Malpiquas left?
Yeah, I got about a dozen. It'll just take a sec to wrap them up.
Whereabouts did you say that truck was stolen?
About 5 miles down the road.
Roger, I'm sorry about the message I left before. Can I take you up on your offer? Roger? Say something.
Sorry, hon, you got the wrong person. This is Norma, the Druid Priestess.
Who is this?
Son of a bitch.
starting to.
Sorry it took so long, but old Ed's been hitting the moonshine again. Come in. Come on in.
Really boring.
Make yourself at home.
Wow. Oh, this place is really something.
Thank you.
You mind me asking what you do for a living?
Well, I import things, mainly from Europe. Used furniture and old knickknacks and bits of canvas with paint on them.
Cool.
Oh, you like the painting? Ah, you like weapons. It so happens that that axe was used during the French Revolution to chop off heads.
Really? Can I touch it?
Sure. See all those notches on the handle? 15. One for each head.
Is this for real?
As far as I know, it's just an axe. I inherited it and my business from my mother. Her philosophy was you attach a story to every object and then you jack up the price of the object. That's my mother, by the way. In the painting?
Your mother was some piece of work, huh?
She was. Why don't you go upstairs? There's a master suite up there. You can change and shower. There's some dresses in the closet.
Are you married or something, Raj?
Oh, and the dresses belong to a woman who is no longer a part of my life.
Was she your girlfriend?
I'd rather not talk about the relationship. The important thing is that it's over.
Okay, I'll take a look. In there? Son of a bitch! Out of your life, is she? As of when? A couple of hours ago? Christ. You can still smell the perfume on him. Men. They're either cheating on you or cheating on someone else and using you to do it. But not with me. And boy, are you in for a big surprise. It's okay, huh?
If you looked any better in that dress, I wouldn't be able to stand it. But it's not complete.
What are you doing?
Just indulging a little fantasy. Turn around.
Surprises. I love surprises. Give me a hint.
Well, this used to belong to Catherine the Great of Russia, and it's not cheap.
Can I see?
Sure. Over here.
It's beautiful.
It's only as beautiful as the one who wears it. Dinner's ready. So after Norma discovers that her lover Pollione has been unfaithful to her, she decides to commit suicide because she's broken her vow of chastity. But at the last moment, Pollione joins her, and together they walk toward the funeral pyre as the curtain drops.
That's it? That's how it ends?
The guy cheats on her and she kills herself?
Well, she doesn't do it because of him. She does it because she's broken her
No,
vow.
she should have taken the gold and split to Paris or somewhere. That would have been a lot more believable.
But not poetic. All operas are filled with love-sick martyrs who end up dying. That's what opera's all about. Love and death.
Love and death. I like that.
Sometimes I think my own life is like an opera. Or at least my relationships with women. I like strong women. I like all women, but I seem to bring out the worst in them. Don't get me wrong. I love them. The way they look, the way they smell, the way they talk, the demure way they go to the bathroom with their skirts hiked up around their waist. The way they laugh. So, that's me. What about you?
Like, what do you want to know?
Like who you are, really? Like what your name is? I know it's not normal. Like, why did you steal that truck? You did, didn't you? I'm not gonna tell anyone. I couldn't care less.
Then why do you want to know?
If you don't want to tell me the truth, that's okay.
No, I'll tell you the truth. I came up here looking for my husband. He told me he was on a fishing trip with his buddies for the weekend, and it turns out he's shacking up with some bimbo.
What happened?
I dealt with it. So now I can't go home. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I understand.
You do?
You can stay here as long as you like. I don't know what it is, but I feel this connection with you.
I feel it too. Don't tell me you're one of those guys who always has to be in control. Didn't you say you thought strong women were sexy?
Yeah, but how do I know you're not gonna tie me up and rob me? Maybe even slit my throat? Who knows what you're capable of?
How do I know you're not gonna throw me out in the morning?
Oh, I wouldn't do that to you. Can we just make love?
Sure we can. I just don't want you to touch me until I'm ready to be touched.
I don't think I can wait that long.
Sure you can. You're just gonna have to trust me like you want me to trust you. Don't you think trust is sexy?
What's it? What? There's somebody downstairs. Wait here. Hello? Who's there?
Where is she?
Joanne, what are you doing?
Well, isn't this sweet? Dinner for two, champagne for two, and my color lipstick on the glass.
Let me explain.
You've got some little trollop in our bed, don't you? You stick your dick in a shrub if we thought we were a rosy head. You worthless piece of shit! I'll fix her ass for good.
You gotta leave. She gets dangerous when she's like this.
Yeah, well, so do I.
Dude, please, please, there's no time. You gotta go.
Touch me!
Ah, let's go. Thank you. Please, just leave. I don't get hurt.
Bastard! Shit!
Where is she? Do I have to do to her what I did to the one in the restaurant?
Calm down.
Come on, Roger. Why do we have to play these games?
Joanna, calm down. Take it easy.
You know I'll find her.
fix your ass for good. Sluts like you can fool Roger, but you can't fool me.
Oh my God, Roger.
I'm gonna make you look like that bitch at the restaurant. I'll fix your ass for good. Roger is mine.
I know they say blondes have more fun, but you gotta admit, redheads really know how to swing. So till next time, kiddies, I hope you'll excuse me, but I've got a little private business to take care of. It's the only way to fry. I've always wanted to join the Mild Die Club.
The rain came down in a relentless sheet, turning the streets of Willow Creek into rivers of dark, churning water. Street lights flickered in the fog, their glow barely piercing the gloom that clung to the town like a shroud. Most of the residents had long since retreated into the safety of their homes, shutting out the night and its unseen horrors. But the old Hilltop Academy, once a prestigious institution for the academically gifted, now a crumbling relic of its former glory, remained eerily illuminated, its windows glowing like the eyes of a predator watching the world below. Inside, a faint smell of mildew mixed with the lingering scent of chalk and old paper, remnants of a long-abandoned curriculum. The main hall echoed with the footsteps of a solitary figure, each step sounding louder than it should, bouncing off the peeling walls. James Keller, the new instructor of parapsychology, walked with an uneasy determination. At 28, he had the sharp mind of a scholar, but the nervous energy of someone unaccustomed to dealing with the supernatural. His brief tenure at Willow Creek Academy had already been marked by strange incidents, books falling from shelves, whispers in empty corridors, and the inexplicable flickering of lights, but none of it had prepared him for what he would face tonight. James reached the end of the hall, pausing in front of a tall, narrow door. The plaque beside it read, "CRYPT Course, Advanced Studies in the Unseen." It was the Academy's most controversial elective, notorious for pushing students to confront fears that were better left unexplored. Rumors circulated that students who enrolled often disappeared, or returned changed, haunted by nightmares they could never shake. James had been warned by the headmaster, an austere man named Dr. Montrose, but his curiosity had overridden caution. He was not a man to shy away from the unknown. In fact, he thrived on it. Yet, as he reached for the doorknob, a shiver ran down his spine. The door creaked open, revealing a classroom bathed in an unnatural amber light. The walls were lined with shelves containing artifacts, trinkets, and jars filled with things that seemed to squirm when not looked at directly. At the center of the room was a large circular table made of dark oak, polished to a mirror-like finish. Around it, a half-dozen students waited, their faces a mixture of excitement and dread. Each wore the standard uniform of the academy, but their eyes betrayed a hunger for something more, something forbidden. "Welcome," James said, his voice steady despite the knot of anxiety in his stomach. "I'm Professor Keller, and I will be guiding you through the CRYPT course this semester. What you are about to experience is not fiction. It is not dramatized for entertainment. The knowledge you will gain may change your life or end it. There will be no room for hesitation or fear. If any of you feel unprepared, now is the time to leave." A young woman in the front row raised her hand. Her name was Emily, with sharp features and eyes that seemed too knowing for her 17 years. "Professor," she said, "why do they call it the CRYPT course? Is it dangerous? James hesitated, recalling the countless whispers about what had transpired within these walls over the decades. "It's called that because it creeps into the mind," he said finally. "It forces you to confront what you do not understand. It tests your courage against forces beyond reason. And yes, in a sense, it is dangerous. But danger is only a matter of perspective." A murmur passed through the students. Some leaned back, trying to appear indifferent, while others leaned forward, hungry for knowledge. James allowed himself a small, grim smile. The mixture of fear and curiosity was exactly what he needed to fuel the course. He motioned for them to gather around the table. "Tonight, we will begin with observation. The first lesson is simple. Watch and record. But what you observe may not be what it seems. Everything in this room has a history, a memory, a secret. Pay attention, and you might survive the course. Ignore it, and, well, some secrets are hungry." James picked up an ornate brass clock from the table. Its surface was intricately engraved with symbols that seemed almost alive, shifting subtly when viewed from the corner of one's eye. "This clock belonged to the first headmaster of Willow Creek," he said, setting it in the center of the table. "He had an obsession with time, not just the kind you measure with hands and numbers, but time itself as a malleable, living entity. It is said that the clock has witnessed tragedies and triumphs, and it remembers them all." He tapped the clock lightly. The hands spun backward, then froze. A low hum filled the room, vibrating through the floorboards. The students leaned in, eyes wide. The air grew thick, almost tangible, and a faint whispering seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. James watched their reactions carefully, noting the mixture of awe and fear. "Do not speak unless spoken to," he instructed. "And do not touch anything without permission. The creep course is about restraint as much as discovery. Your mind is your instrument, and if it falters, well, let's just say the Academy has ways of correcting mistakes." For a long moment, the only sounds were the rain tapping against the windows and the low, almost imperceptible hum of the clock. Then Emily reached out, her hand trembling, and brushed her fingers against one of the jars on the shelf. The jar contained a small, twisted figure that looked like it had been carved from bone. As her fingers made contact, the figure's eyes flickered open, and a shrill, almost human scream pierced the room. The students recoiled in terror, some knocking over chairs in their haste to retreat, but James held up a hand, stopping them. "Control yourselves," he commanded. "Fear is the doorway. Curiosity is the key. Do not let the former dominate the latter." Emily's face was pale, her lips trembling. I didn't mean—" "Intent is irrelevant here," James said. "Action is what matters. Observe, learn, survive." He gestured for the students to sit again. Slowly, hesitantly, they complied, though none dared to look directly at the jar. James returned it to its place on the shelf, whispering something under his breath. The figure went still again, its malevolent presence seemingly absorbed into the shadows. "Lesson 1 complete," James said, his voice calm but firm. "You have seen that the ordinary can become extraordinary, the lifeless can seem alive, and the safe can turn perilous. Remember this feeling. It will be your guide, or your undoing." The students scribbled notes feverishly, their hands shaking. James allowed them a few minutes to collect themselves before moving on. He picked up an old book bound in cracked leather, its title faded, Whispers of the Forgotten. Opening it, he blew away decades of dust. The pages were filled with strange symbols, sketches of unearthly beings, and descriptions of rituals that seemed impossible to enact in reality. Yet some part of James's mind knew that they were. "This book," he explained, "is a collection of experiences, encounters, and experiments from generations of academicians who sought to understand the unseen. Many of them never returned from these experiments, which is why the book is incomplete. But what remains is enough for us to begin." He turned to a page detailing a ritual called the Mirror Walk. The students leaned closer, captivated. "This ritual," he said, "requires only a mirror and courage. It allows you to see beyond the physical world, to glimpse what lies hidden. But beware. What you see may follow you home." He placed a small hand mirror on the table. The reflection was faintly distorted, showing not the students, but an empty corridor behind them that seemed darker, denser, and alive. A cold draft swept the room, carrying whispers that made the hairs on James's arms stand on end. One student, a boy named Thomas, leaned in too close, his face paling as the mirror seemed to ripple like water. "Step carefully," James warned. "The unseen world is patient. It observes, it waits, and it feeds on hesitation." The night stretched on, the rain outside intensifying. Shadows moved across the walls, sometimes against the natural direction of the light. The students began to realize that what James had said was true. The room was alive in a way that defied logic. Each artifact, each object, seemed to pulse with memory and intent. The clock ticked backward, the jar twitched, and the book's pages fluttered as though caught in an invisible wind. By the time the lesson ended, exhaustion had set in, but the hunger for knowledge had not abated. James could see it in their eyes, the thrill of walking on the edge of understanding, the intoxication of peering into the darkness without falling prey to it yet. As he dismissed the students for the evening, he reminded them, "Do not leave this room tonight. Study your notes, reflect, and above all, sleep lightly. The CRYPT course has only just begun, and the shadows are eager for new students." Alone, James stayed behind, surveying the room. Every artifact seemed to regard him now with a kind of malevolent expectation. The mirror on the table reflected not his image, but the empty hallways of the academy, twisting into impossible angles. The clock continued its backward march, counting down to something he could not yet understand. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside, the old academy held its breath. Something was awakening, something patient, something hungry, and it had taken notice of Professor Keller. The following morning, Willow Creek was shrouded in fog, a gray blanket that muted the world into a soft, oppressive silence. The rain had eased, leaving the streets slick and glistening, but the air remained heavy with moisture, clinging to clothes and hair and carrying the faint, lingering scent of wet earth. James arrived at the academy earlier than usual, his coat still damp, his mind restless from the events of the previous night. The classroom of the CRYPT course awaited him like a living entity, and he felt, with no small amount of trepidation, that it had changed overnight, as though it had been waiting for him to return. The door swung open with a reluctant groan, and he stepped into the amber-lit room. The artifacts seemed to shimmer faintly, bathed in the warm glow of the ceiling lamps. The jar with the bone-like figure remained motionless, yet James knew it was only a matter of time. Objects like these never truly slept. They waited. The book, Whispers of the Forgotten, lay open where he had left it, its pages whispering secrets that his conscious mind struggled to grasp. James set his bag down and straightened his tie. Today, he would introduce the second lesson, the art of listening beyond hearing. It was a deceptively simple concept, but in a room like this, simplicity was often a trap. Sound, like fear, could be manipulated. It could be a warning, a lure, or a threat. The students filed in, faces still pale from the previous night's ordeal. Some whispered greetings to one another, though the words seemed hollow, almost swallowed by the shadows. Emily entered first, her eyes darting nervously around the room, followed by Thomas, who avoided the mirror entirely. The rest trailed behind, hesitating at the threshold as though the room itself was judging their worthiness to enter. "Good morning," James said, his voice calm but authoritative. "I trust you slept well." There was a pause, a tension hanging in the air like a storm cloud refusing to break. "Sleep is a luxury you will have little of in this course. Tonight, the shadows will be more active, but for now, we focus on listening." He gestured to a corner of the room where a set of small speakers and an old phonograph were arranged. "This is a collection of sounds captured within the academy over the past century. Some are recordings of natural phenomena, storms, footsteps, laughter, but others are anomalies, voices of those who linger here beyond the grave, echoes of past events, whispers from realms unseen. You will listen, record, and interpret." The students gathered near the table, their notebooks ready. Emily's hand shook as she lifted her pen, while Thomas avoided eye contact with anyone. James noticed subtle changes in their expressions. Curiosity edged with fear, fascination laced with doubt. This mixture was what kept him going, what made the course worth teaching. He started the phonograph. The scratchy record emitted a low hum before a series of sounds filled the room. At first, they were indistinct. The soft murmur of voices, the creaking of floorboards, the distant rattle of doors. Then, subtly, a pattern emerged. The voices whispered words that were almost intelligible, phrases that hinted at sorrow, rage, and warning. One seemed to call a name, Emily, in a tone both familiar and alien. Emily froze, her pen slipped from her fingers, clattering to the floor. Did you hear that?" she whispered. "Yes," James said quietly, stepping closer. "Keep listening. Do not react immediately. Interpret." The room seemed to contract around them, the walls pulsing faintly, as if the very fabric of the academy was alive and participating in the lesson. The students leaned closer to their notebooks, trying to transcribe the whispers, but the words shifted like sand, elusive and uncatchable. Thomas murmured something under his breath, a question perhaps, or a plea, but it was swallowed by the ambient sound of the room. James circled the table, observing each student carefully. Hearing is passive. Listening is active. You must engage with what you hear. Let it guide you, but do not let it dominate you. Understand it, question it, but never trust it blindly. He paused by the mirror on the table. Its surface rippled faintly, reflecting not the students but a corridor he had never seen before, one lined with shadowed figures whose faces were blurred, features twisting unnaturally. A chill ran down his spine. The mirror had always been more than a reflective surface. It was a portal, a gateway, a lure into dimensions he was not yet ready to name. The phonograph crackled, and the whispers grew louder, overlapping into a cacophony that seemed to press against their ears. Emily pressed her hands over her ears, but the sound penetrated anyway, seeping into her thoughts, into her memory. Thomas clenched his fists, teeth gritted, trying to impose control over the terror he felt creeping into his consciousness. The other students were similarly affected, some paralyzed, some scribbling frantically, some frozen in awe. "Do not panic," James commanded, his own voice steady despite the unease gnawing at him. "Let the sounds guide you to what you must learn. There is a pattern here. Every voice, every creak, every sigh has meaning. You need only to listen closely enough to discern it." He turned off the phonograph. The sudden silence was deafening, as if the world itself had exhaled. The students blinked, struggling to orient themselves. Emily sank into her chair, shaking. It's like they know us," she whispered, eyes wide. "Like they're inside our heads." James nodded. "They are. That is the essence of this course. The unseen world interacts with the living. It observes, it manipulates, it tests. If you are not vigilant, it can consume you. But if you are disciplined, if you learn to understand it, it can reveal truths no living being has ever known." He walked to the jar on the shelf, lifting it carefully. The figure inside did not stir this time, yet its hollow eyes seemed to follow him. He placed it back, and the room seemed to settle slightly, though the students remained tense. "Next," he said, "we will perform a practical exercise. You will pair up and explore the hallways of the academy, armed only with flashlights and your notebooks. Your task is to document sounds you perceive and interpret them as accurately as possible. Remember, the corridors are not empty. They contain echoes of the past, fragments of memories, and something else. Pairs formed reluctantly, Emily teaming with Thomas. The others exchanged hesitant glances but followed the instructions. James handed them flashlights, their beams cutting through the dim, ambient glow of the hallways. Each pair moved cautiously, their footsteps tentative on the polished floors, the sound of water dripping from a leak somewhere above punctuating the silence. The shadows in the hallways seemed to shift as they walked, elongating unnaturally, curling around corners where no light reached. Emily and Thomas paused at a doorway, their flashlight beams illuminating peeling wallpaper and the skeletal remains of classroom furniture. Thomas bent down, jotting notes, while Emily's attention was drawn to a faint scratching sound emanating from beneath the floorboards. "Do you hear that?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. Thomas nodded, trying to focus. "It's beneath us. Could be rats." But the sound grew louder, rhythmic, almost deliberate, and it didn't move like a rodent. It seemed intentional, as though it was communicating something in a language they could not yet understand. Emily's heart pounded. She felt as though the floor itself was alive, pulsing with an unseen presence. A sudden gust of cold air swept the corridor. Their flashlights flickered and the whispering began again, low, guttural, threaded with human tones. It was closer now, surrounding them, echoing off walls that should have absorbed sound rather than amplified it. Emily clutched Thomas's arm, her nails digging into his sleeve. "We need to get back," she said, her voice shaking. I can't." But before they could turn, a figure appeared at the end of the corridor, indistinct and shadowed, yet unmistakably humanoid. Its eyes glowed faintly, red and predatory, and it did not move like a normal being. Instead, it slid toward them with an unnatural grace, a predator that had been waiting for its prey. Thomas froze, paralyzed, while Emily tried to scream, but no sound emerged. James's earlier words echoed in their minds. The unseen world interacts with the living. It observes, it manipulates, it tests. Now, they understood, in a visceral, horrifying way, that they were not alone. The figure stopped a few feet from them, its presence oppressive, overwhelming. The whispering intensified, filling their heads with fragmented phrases, laughter, and warnings. Emily dropped her flashlight, which rolled across the floor, illuminating the figure in brief, staccato flashes. Each flash revealed its features more clearly: a twisted, skeletal visage, eyes sunken but burning with awareness, and a mouth that stretched impossibly wide in a grin that promised pain. Thomas finally broke free from his paralysis, grabbing Emily's hand. "Run!" he shouted, dragging her back the way they had come. The hallway seemed endless, stretching and bending in impossible ways, doors appearing where none had been, shadows thickening with every step. The whispering chased them, a constant pressure at the edges of their consciousness. Finally, they burst back into the classroom, breathless and drenched in sweat. The lights were steady, the artifacts inert, the amber glow unbroken. James stood calmly, as though he had been expecting them. "Lesson 2, concluded," he said, voice calm. "You have encountered the first direct manifestation. Notice how fear tried to dominate you. Observe how you responded. This is only the beginning. The CRYPT course has much more to teach, and you, if you survive, will learn to listen not just with your ears, but with your mind, your heart, and your courage." Emily sank into a chair, trembling. Thomas collapsed beside her, both of them gasping for air, eyes wide with the realization that the academy was far more alive and far more dangerous than they had imagined. James watched them carefully, aware that tonight would bring more challenges, more shadows, and more tests of will. The CRYPT course was relentless, and Willow Creek Academy, with its hidden corridors, haunted artifacts, and living shadows, was only beginning to reveal its true nature. The storm outside had ended, but the storm within the walls of the academy was just beginning to rage. Night fell with a suffocating weight over Willow Creek, the sky a bruised purple-black, punctuated by occasional flashes of distant lightning that reflected off the wet streets like jagged silver veins. The academy loomed atop its hill, a monolith of stone and shadow, its windows aglow with an eerie, inviting light. Inside, the students of the CRYPT course assembled once more, carrying the remnants of unease from the previous day. Emily and Thomas trailed behind, their shoulders tense, their faces pale, haunted by the memory of the figure in the corridor. James Keller waited at the head of the room, calm as always, his eyes scanning the group like a predator studying its prey. He had sensed their fear, their hesitation, but more importantly, he had sensed curiosity, that undeniable hunger that kept students returning despite terror. "Tonight," he began, "we advance to Lesson 3, the art of reflection. Not the kind of reflection found in mirrors, but the reflection of the mind, the soul, and the unseen. You will confront yourself, or rather what lurks within you, through a series of controlled experiments." The students shifted uneasily, some exchanging worried glances. Emily's hands trembled as she adjusted her notebook. Thomas gripped the edge of his chair, knuckles white. James's calmness was unnerving. "This will require courage, discipline, and absolute honesty with yourself," he continued. "No distractions, no avoidance. What you face will test you in ways you cannot anticipate. And remember, the Academy does not forgive weakness." He gestured toward the back of the classroom where a series of tall mirrors leaned against the walls. Each mirror was framed in twisted black iron, adorned with carvings of faces contorted in silent screams. The glass reflected more than mere images. It seemed to capture essence, memory, and a lingering hint of life. James chose one and placed it on the table at the center. "This is the mirror of true sight. It will reveal things you do not wish to see. You will stand before it, alone, and confront the shadows within." A palpable shiver ran through the room. Emily's eyes widened. "Alone?" she whispered. "We have to do this alone?" "Yes," James said, his voice firm. "Your peers can observe, but they cannot intervene. You must face the reflection, and what you see may not be flattering or forgiving." The first volunteer was a boy named Marcus, a tall, wiry student with an eagerness that bordered on arrogance. He stepped forward, attempting to mask his nerves with bravado. As he stood before the mirror, James gave a subtle nod, and the room dimmed further, leaving only the amber glow and the cold light refracting off the glass. At first, Marcus saw nothing unusual, just himself, pale, sweating, and slightly disheveled. But gradually, the reflection shifted. His features elongated unnaturally, his eyes deepening into hollows, and his mouth twisting into a grin that was not his own. A voice, faint and mocking, whispered his deepest fears. Failure, insignificance, the judgment of those he loved. Marcus stumbled backward, but James held up a hand. "Do not resist. Let it speak. Listen, understand, then reclaim your mind. The reflection is not your enemy, it is a messenger." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. He spoke aloud, recounting the whispers, the fears, the hidden insecurities the mirror had exposed. By the end, he was trembling but composed, having faced the darkness within himself and survived the ordeal. The students watched in tense silence, some terrified, some intrigued. Emily and Thomas were next. Emily approached the mirror with tentative steps, her heart pounding. She gazed into the glass and for a moment saw only herself, familiar, fragile, human. Then the reflection shifted. Her features seemed to melt, revealing a hollow-eyed version of herself that whispered doubts and fears she had never spoken aloud. Inadequacy, isolation, and lurking fear that. Curiosity, one day destroy her. Her knees buckled. She felt as though the floor had disappeared beneath her, that the very room was pressing against her chest. Thomas reached out instinctively, but James stopped him with a glance. "Observe. Do not intervene. She must face this on her own." Emily swallowed hard, forcing herself to breathe, to focus. Slowly, the hollow reflection began to speak less, its voice weakening under the strength of her own resolve. She straightened, meeting the eyes of her reflection. "I am not afraid," she whispered, and in that moment the glass cleared, showing only her true self, steady and unwavering despite the lingering unease. Thomas's turn was next. He stepped up, fists clenched, ready to confront whatever the mirror had in store. The glass rippled as he approached, and his reflection warped into a monstrous version of himself, a creature shaped from his own guilt, anger, and self-doubt. It taunted him, echoing every harsh word he had ever spoken, every choice he regretted, and every moment of weakness he had tried to forget. Thomas's legs trembled. He felt the presence of something beyond the reflection, something alive in the room with him, feeding on the intensity of his fear. He heard whispers behind him, in the corners, in the air, but forced himself to remain focused. Sweat streamed down his face, his mind teetering on the brink of panic, yet he drew in a deep, steadying breath. "I am more than my mistakes," he said aloud. "I am more than my fear." The mirror flickered, then stilled, showing only Thomas's reflection, unchanged but resolute. James nodded subtly, acknowledging the victory, small though it was. "Good," James said quietly as the students resumed their seats. Lesson 3 demonstrates a vital truth. The unseen forces you encounter are not merely external. They are mirrors of yourself. They will exploit your fears, tempt your weaknesses, and amplify your doubts. Master yourself, and you master them. Fail, and you may never leave this course unchanged. The students scribbled notes feverishly, some still pale, some whispering observations to one another. Emily leaned over to Thomas. I didn't think I could do it," she admitted. "It felt like the mirror was reaching into my mind and my heart." Thomas nodded, his expression thoughtful. "It was, but somehow it didn't break me. That's something, isn't it?" James approached the mirror, his hand tracing the carved iron frame. He whispered words under his breath, phrases from the book Whispers of the Forgotten, and the glass rippled faintly, almost acknowledging him. He felt the presence of the Academy more keenly than ever, as though it were aware of his every thought. The shadows in the corners of the room shifted, thickened, and pressed in closer, a subtle reminder that the night was not yet done. "Tonight, you have confronted what lies within," he said, voice low, but carrying authority. "Tomorrow, we will confront what lies without. The Academy's corridors, its artifacts, its very walls are alive with memory and intent. You must learn to navigate them with awareness, courage, and respect. Do not underestimate the power you are dealing with." As the students left the room for the evening, the storm outside began to return. Rain tapped against the windows, punctuated by distant rumbles of thunder. Emily and Thomas walked together, silent at first, then exchanging murmurs about the experience. Their minds were a tangle of awe, fear, and adrenaline. "Do you think anyone has ever failed the CRYPT course?" Emily asked quietly. Thomas shivered. "I don't know, but I think if they did, the Academy didn't let them leave." James remained behind, alone with the artifacts and shadows. He moved through the room methodically, checking each item, whispering reassurances to those that seemed restless. The mirror reflected not only him, but the faint shapes of the students moving down the hall, their forms blurry, almost ghost-like. He knew the mirror had seen their fears, their triumphs, their small victories, and it would remember. A sudden cold draft swept the room, carrying a faint, almost imperceptible whisper. "Keller?" James froze, listening intently. The voice was soft but unmistakable, familiar yet alien. It seemed to crawl along the walls, pressing into his consciousness. He moved toward the mirror, tracing its surface with a gloved hand. The glass shimmered, distorting into a vision of the hallways. Longer, darker, twisted beyond recognition. Figures moved within the reflections, shadowy and indistinct, their faces unreadable but aware, their eyes burning with silent intent. He exhaled slowly. This was the nature of the CRYPT course. Every lesson, every challenge was only the beginning. The Academy was alive, and it had noticed him, just as it had noticed the students. Its memory was long, its patience infinite, and its hunger subtle but unyielding. James turned to the book on the table, opening it to a passage he had not yet explored. The text described a ritual to commune with the lingering presence of the Academy itself, an exercise that, if performed correctly, could reveal secrets hidden for decades. But there was a warning, scrawled in the margin in a hand that was almost his own. One who seeks knowledge must be willing to pay the price. Some prices are paid in fear, others in flesh, others in memory. All are absolute. He felt the truth of those words deep in his chest, a pulse of unease mingling with anticipation. The CRYPT course was not merely a study of the unseen, it was a negotiation, a test of resilience, and a confrontation with the very essence of what it meant to be human. Outside, the storm intensified. Lightning illuminated the Hilltop Academy in stark, skeletal flashes, and thunder rolled like a drumbeat in the heavens. Inside, shadows lengthened, whispering secrets older than the town itself, and James Keller, standing amid the artifacts, mirrors, and haunted pages, felt the Academy's gaze settle upon him with the weight of inevitability. The night was far from over, and the CRYPT course had only just begun. The storm had not relented by dawn. Willow Creek awoke to a world slick and gray, the rain cascading from rooftops in endless sheets and pooling in gutters that overflowed with muddy water. The Academy rose above the town like a dark sentinel, windows glinting with an unnatural glow, as if the building itself were aware of the storm's fury. Inside, the halls were damp and cold, echoing with the faint drip of water from a leaky ceiling and the occasional groan of ancient wood under the weight of history. James Keller walked those halls alone, the echo of his footsteps bouncing off walls lined with peeling wallpaper and portraits that seemed to follow him with their eyes. He could feel the weight of the Academy pressing against him, a living consciousness waiting for its next move. Today's lesson was not for the faint of heart. James had prepared an exercise in perception and endurance, one that would force the students to confront not only external phenomena, but the hidden recesses of their own minds. He entered the CRYPT course classroom, which seemed darker, denser somehow, than the previous nights. Artifacts glimmered with a faint inner light, shadows pooling in corners where there should have been none. The jar containing the skeletal figure now trembled slightly, as though anticipating the arrival of the students. The students arrived shortly thereafter, each carrying the fatigue of the past night's experiences. Emily and Thomas were particularly subdued, their faces pale, their movements hesitant. The others showed varying degrees of apprehension, from nervous curiosity to outright fear. James observed them carefully, noting how their exposure to the unknown was already shaping them, some growing cautious, some emboldened, some trembling under the weight of unseen scrutiny. "Today," James began, "we step into the corridors themselves. The lesson is called The Path of Observation. You will move through the hallways in pairs, documenting phenomena as you encounter it. Listen, record, and interpret. But be aware, the hallways are not merely empty passages. They retain echoes of the past, memories, emotions, even entities that linger between spaces. You must navigate them carefully, for every corner, every door, every shadow can alter your perception. Some may guide you, others will mislead. Some will observe you as much as you observe them." He handed each pair a small lantern and a notebook, cautioning them to remain together and to resist the temptation to rush. Emily and Thomas huddled close, their hands brushing as they walked toward the first hallway. The other students followed, their lanterns cutting thin swaths of light through the gloom, illuminating peeling paint, broken furniture, and dark stains on the walls whose origins none dared speculate on. The corridor seemed to stretch longer than it should have, bending subtly, warping in ways the human eye could barely detect. Shadows clung to the corners, twitching and shifting with a life of their own. The air was thick with moisture, but beneath it lingered a faint metallic tang, like the scent of blood long dried yet never fully dissipated. Emily shivered. "It feels wrong," she whispered, clutching Thomas's arm. He nodded. "Stay focused. Remember what Keller said? Observe, record, interpret. Don't let the fear take you over." The first anomaly appeared as a whisper, a low, barely audible sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It rose and fell with the rhythm of their footsteps, sometimes behind them, sometimes ahead. Emily's heart pounded in her chest. "Do you hear that?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. Thomas nodded, scribbling in his notebook. "It's like the hallway itself is speaking. Listen carefully. There's a pattern. The whispering intensified, merging with the creaks and groans of the building. The students' lanterns flickered, throwing dancing shadows on the walls that seemed to move independently of any physical object. Thomas moved the lantern closer to a door at the end of the hallway where the shadows pooled thickly, almost forming shapes. As the light fell upon the door, a chill swept over them both, carrying the faintest echo of laughter, dry, hollow, and cruel. Emily swallowed hard. We should go back, she murmured, but Thomas shook his head. We have to see it through. Keller would expect nothing less. The door creaked open at the slightest touch, revealing a classroom frozen in time. Dust-covered desks were scattered across the floor, books lying open as if abandoned mid-lesson. The walls were lined with faded chalkboards, scribbled with lessons and equations, some of which defied conventional understanding. On one of the desks lay a small, leather-bound journal. Its pages were yellowed, edges curled with age, and the ink seemed almost to shimmer in the lantern light. Thomas picked up the journal carefully, flipping through the pages. Strange symbols jutted across the margins, accompanied by sketches of shadowy figures that seemed to twist and writhe when not directly observed. Emily peered over his shoulder, her eyes widening. "What is this?" she asked, voice trembling. "Documentation," Thomas murmured, eyes scanning the text. "From a student, maybe from decades ago. They were recording experiences just like we are." As they read, the whispering returned, louder now, pressing against the edges of their minds. The shadows in the corners of the room thickened, curling toward them like smoke. Emily felt the hair on her arms stand on end, a chill crawling down her spine. She noticed that one of the sketches in the journal resembled the figure they had encountered in the hallway the night before, its hollow eyes and twisted grin etched perfectly onto the page. A sudden noise made them jump, a loud clatter from the back of the room. Thomas swung the lantern, illuminating a small closet. The door was ajar, and something moved inside, too quick to see clearly, yet undeniably present. A low, almost imperceptible hum emanated from the space, vibrating through the floor and into their bones. Emily gasped. "Stay calm," Thomas whispered, his own voice tight with tension. "We record first, then we interpret." They jotted down notes frantically, documenting every sound, every flicker of shadow, every anomaly. The room seemed to pulse with awareness, alive and cognizant of their attention. The whispering evolved into distinct phrases, fragmented but intelligible. "You are not welcome. Leave. Observe. Become." Emily felt a pull toward the closet, an inexplicable compulsion that went against every instinct. Her hands moved almost on their own, brushing against the edge of the door. The whispering intensified, merging with a sound like fingernails scratching across wood. She froze, the sensation of being watched overwhelming her senses. Thomas grabbed her hand, pulling her back. "Don't," he said firmly. "It's trying to lure you. Focus on your notes. Focus on the task." They stepped back from the closet, but the feeling of presence lingered, coiling around them, pressing down on their minds. It was as though the room itself were breathing, watching, evaluating. Emily's chest ached, her pulse a drumbeat of terror and exhilaration. After several minutes, they finally gathered their courage and left the room, closing the door behind them. The hallway seemed less threatening now, though the shadows still moved with subtle awareness. The whispering faded to a low murmur, retreating into the corners of the building. As they returned to the main classroom, James waited silently. His gaze swept over them, assessing, calculating. "Well," he said finally, voice low and measured, "you have encountered the Academy in its unguarded moments. You have documented anomalies, resisted temptation, and survived your first direct interaction with the building's memory. Take note, this is only a fraction of what the Academy can reveal, and only a fraction of what it expects from you." Emily slumped into her chair, exhaustion and adrenaline battling for dominance. Thomas followed, still holding the journal. It's more than I imagined," he said quietly. "The hallway, the closet, it was alive, like it was testing us." James nodded. "Indeed. The Academy observes and records as much as you do. It is patient, discerning, and intelligent. It adapts to you, learns from you, and sometimes it teaches harsh lessons. Remember this night. Remember every sound, every shadow, every flicker of doubt. These will serve you well, or they will consume you. The other students trickled back into the room, faces pale, notebooks filled with frantic scribbles. The atmosphere was charged, taut with the energy of encounters that defied explanation. No one spoke loudly. The air itself seemed to insist on silence, on observation. James moved among them, offering guidance, subtle nods of encouragement, and quiet warnings. He felt the presence of the Academy in every artifact, in every shadow, in every whispered thought that seemed to arise unbidden in his mind. The building was alive, aware, and patient. It had noticed their curiosity, their courage, their fear, and it would not soon forget. As the session concluded, James dismissed the students for the evening. They filed out silently, their minds heavy with the weight of their experiences. Emily lingered, glancing at the door to the hallway one last time, a shiver running down her spine. Thomas placed the journal on the table, its pages filled with strange symbols and sketches, and followed her silently. Alone, James surveyed the classroom, the artifacts, the mirrors, and the faintly trembling jar. The Academy seemed to exhale around him, its presence tangible, almost sentient. He knew that tonight would bring more challenges, more tests, and perhaps more direct encounters with the shadows that thrived within the building. Outside, the storm continued its relentless assault, lightning flashing across the sky, illuminating the Hilltop Academy in stark relief. The wind howled through the cracks in the walls, carrying with it the faintest whispers, echoing through the corridors, hinting at secrets too ancient to name. And within those walls, the CRYPT course pressed onward, shaping minds, testing courage, and revealing truths that few would ever truly comprehend. The Academy was patient, the students unaware of the deeper games at play, and James Keller knew that the night was far from over. The CRYPT course had only begun to awaken its true lessons. The night air was thick and heavy, carrying with it the distant rumbles of thunder and the relentless drizzle that had soaked Willow Creek for days. The Academy seemed to breathe under the storm, its stone walls exhaling mist and shadow as though it were a living organism. Inside, the students of the CRYPT course assembled once more, their faces drawn and pale from the strain of previous lessons. Emily and Thomas arrived together, silent, each lost in their own thoughts, trying to reconcile the horrors of the past nights with the strange exhilaration that came from surviving them. James Keller stood at the front of the classroom, his presence calm, almost serene, but with an undercurrent of menace that set the students on edge. Tonight, he explained, the lesson would focus on perception beyond sight. It was one thing to witness shadows, whispers, and anomalies with the eyes. It was another to feel them, to perceive them through intuition, through instinct, through the almost supernatural awareness that the Academy cultivated in its students. "You will work in pairs," James said, his voice low and deliberate. "Tonight's exercise is called the sense of the unseen. You will navigate the hallways of the Academy blindfolded, relying on the subtle cues of sound, vibration, temperature, and intuition. The goal is to reach the designated rooms without direct sight. The Academy will guide you, mislead you, and challenge you. Trust your senses, trust your instincts, and above all, trust yourself. One misstep could have consequences that extend beyond mere fright." The students exchanged uneasy glances. Emily's hands trembled as Thomas adjusted the blindfold over her eyes. "Are you sure about this?" she whispered. Thomas nodded, his jaw tight. "We've come this far. We can't turn back now." James handed each pair a small lantern, its light low but steady. "These will not illuminate the path, only provide reference points if necessary. Use them sparingly. You must learn to rely on what you feel, hear, and sense in the space around you." Emily and Thomas stepped into the hallway, the blindfold cutting off their vision completely. The corridor stretched endlessly before them, or so it felt. The familiar bends and corners of the academy seemed to warp under the influence of the storm outside and the academy's own latent energies. Every step echoed unnaturally, sometimes too long, sometimes too short, betraying the presence of hidden forces. "Slow," Thomas whispered. "Feel the walls. Listen for the floorboards. Trust the rhythm of your steps." Emily did as he instructed, her fingers brushing against the damp wall, nails tracing the irregularities in the peeling wallpaper. The floor beneath them was cold, slick in places where water had seeped from cracks in the ceiling. Every drip, every creak, every faint whisper seemed amplified, carrying with it a hint of malevolence, of awareness. A sudden draft passed between them, chilling their bones. Emily felt the subtle shift of air against her cheek, a brush that could have been nothing, or could have been the academy itself, a conscious presence testing her nerve. She shivered. "Thomas, did you feel that?" He nodded, tense. "Stay focused, move slowly. Don't let it unsettle you." They continued, step by careful step, deeper into the corridor. Shadows that should not exist seemed to coil and stretch around corners, occasionally manifesting as fleeting, indistinct figures that dissolved when attention was given. Emily's mind raced with possibilities. Was it imagination, heightened senses, or something more? The whispering started again, low and indistinct, teasing the edges of comprehension, forming syllables that seemed almost meaningful but dissolved before full understanding. The first obstacle appeared as a low, twisted archway. The air beneath it pulsed with temperature fluctuations, warmer one moment, icy the next. Emily hesitated, sensing a weight above her, an almost tangible pressure. Thomas guided her hand forward, feeling the edges of the arch, noting the subtle vibrations that suggested movement or presence on the other side. "Count your steps," he whispered. "Feel the floorboards. Note the changes in air. This is how we track what we cannot see." Emily did, marking each subtle change, the rhythm of the floor beneath her feet, the shifts in the air around her. Slowly, deliberately, they passed under the archway. A whisper followed them, almost approving, almost predatory. "They move well, for now." Emily froze, heart pounding, but Thomas kept his grip firm on her hand, guiding her forward. Further down the corridor, the temperature dropped sharply. Emily exhaled visible vapor, the chill seeping into her bones. The whispering grew louder, layered now, as if multiple presences were speaking simultaneously. Words became clearer. "Turn back. You are not ready. This path is forbidden." Emily felt a tug at her mind, a pull toward an alcove to their right. She stumbled slightly, resisting the urge. "Don't go there," she whispered. "Something's wrong." Thomas nodded. "Ignore it. Focus on the path. Follow the instructions." The academy seemed to resist their progress. Floorboards creaked under phantom weight, walls whispered of things long buried, and the faint metallic tang of something ancient hung in the air. Emily felt the pressure building, the sense that unseen eyes were tracking every movement, every hesitation. She gritted her teeth, forcing herself to move, to rely on instinct, on touch, on intuition. A sudden soft thud made her flinch. Something, or someone, was moving alongside them unseen, keeping pace with each step. The whispering shifted into voices, now discernible but impossible to attribute to any physical source. A man muttering a name, a woman's laughter echoing from nowhere, the frantic murmuring of a child. Each sound seemed to pull her focus in different directions, yet Thomas's hand remained steady, guiding her forward. Finally, they reached the first designated room. Emily's hands found the door handle, cold and smooth beneath her fingertips. Thomas guided her in, removing the blindfold only when she was safely inside. The room was dimly lit, bathed in amber glow, artifacts lining the walls as if waiting for their attention. They exhaled heavily, the intensity of the exercise leaving them trembling. This is incredible," Emily whispered. "I felt everything. The walls, the shadows, I could sense it all." Thomas nodded, equally shaken. "It's more than we imagined. It's like the academy itself is alive, guiding us, testing us, teaching us. James observed them quietly, noting their reactions, their physical and mental responses. Perception is more than sight. True understanding comes from engaging all senses, recognizing the presence of the unseen, and maintaining clarity of mind. You have taken the first steps in this exercise successfully. Many fail because they trust sight alone, or succumb to the influence of the academy. You have demonstrated restraint, focus, and courage. As the students regrouped, James explained the next stage. Each would explore a separate hallway, entirely alone, with only the lantern and their senses to guide them. Emily felt a knot tighten in her stomach at the thought of venturing alone, but she knew there was no choice. Hours passed as the students took turns navigating their solo corridors. Shadows lengthened unnaturally, whispering voices multiplied, and subtle movements suggested entities watching, following, and evaluating their every step. Emily's mind became attuned to the subtlest cues, slight drafts, minute changes in floorboard vibrations, the softest echo of sound. And with each step, her understanding of the academy deepened. By the time she returned, soaked in sweat and shivering, the storm outside had intensified. Rain lashed against the windows, lightning illuminating the academy in sudden, brilliant flashes, casting fleeting shadows that seemed to reach out for the students. Emily collapsed into her chair, trembling, her notebook clutched tightly to her chest. Thomas returned shortly after, equally exhausted but exhilarated. James addressed the class once more. You have faced the academy as it truly exists, an intelligent, responsive entity that tests, guides, and observes. Your senses have been honed, your awareness heightened, and your courage tested. Remember, these skills are essential not only to your survival in this course, but to understanding the very nature of the unseen. The academy will continue to test you, and it will not relent. Tonight, you have learned that perception is everything. Trust it. Cultivate it. Respect it. Emily leaned back in her chair, her mind racing, heart pounding. She had experienced the academy in ways words could not fully capture, sensed its presence as a living, breathing consciousness, and survived. Yet, a part of her wondered, how much longer could anyone endure this? How many layers of terror awaited beyond the threshold of their next lesson? Thomas placed the journal they had recovered from the previous night on the table, its pages whispering secrets and sketches that seemed to shift in the dim light. Emily traced her fingers over a particularly twisted illustration, shivering at the uncanny resemblance to figures she had sensed during the blindfold exercise. James moved among the students, his presence calm but overwhelming, as if the shadows themselves deferred to him. The academy is patient, he said quietly, almost to himself. It waits for understanding, it waits for discipline, and it waits for courage. Those who respect it are rewarded with knowledge. Those who falter are consumed by fear. Outside, the storm raged, a symphony of wind, rain, and distant thunder that seemed to echo the turmoil within the academy itself. Inside, the CRYPT course students sat in tense silence, absorbing the lessons of perception, intuition, and endurance. The night was far from over, and the academy had many more secrets to reveal. The CRYPT course had only begun to reveal its true nature, and the students were just beginning to understand the scale of the challenges they had yet to face. The shadows whispered, the artifacts glimmered, and the academy waited, patient, intelligent, and relentless. The morning after the blindfolded exercise brought a peculiar stillness to Willow Creek. Rain had ceased, leaving the streets wet and glistening, reflecting the pale, muted sunlight that struggled through heavy clouds. The academy itself seemed quieter, as if recovering from the storm, though the air inside was still thick with tension and expectation. Emily and Thomas arrived early, their steps hesitant as they ascended the winding stairs leading to the CRYPT course classroom. The lessons thus far had left them both exhilarated and exhausted, minds and bodies stretched thin by the academy's demands. James Keller awaited them, standing by a window and observing the pale morning light. His presence carried the same calm authority as always, yet there was an added edge. a hint of anticipation in his eyes that suggested today's lesson would delve into something deeper, something far more unsettling. Today, he began without preamble, we explore the lesson of shadows within and without. Lesson 6 is called The Doppelganger's Trial. It is an exercise in recognition, deception, and the limits of your own perception. Shadows are not merely absence of light. They are repositories of memory, emotion, and sometimes life. They observe, they judge, and they can manipulate. You will encounter a mirror image of yourself, an entity crafted from your fears, insecurities, and suppressed impulses. It will challenge you in ways that are intimate, uncomfortable, and unavoidable. Failure to engage it properly may have consequences that extend beyond fear. Emily felt a shiver run down her spine. The blindfold exercise had already pushed her to the edge of panic and exhilaration. Now, to face a sentient reflection of herself, she was not sure if she was ready. Thomas reached for her hand, his grip steady and reassuring. "We can do this," he whispered. "We've come this far. We just have to face it, like everything else." James moved toward the tall, black-framed mirrors at the rear of the classroom. Each mirror was etched with intricate carvings of twisted faces, frozen in silent screams or laughter, their eyes seeming to follow the students. He gestured toward one, its glass catching the dim morning light in strange, distorted reflections. One at a time. You will stand before the mirror. The doppelganger will emerge gradually. It will test your resolve, your honesty, and your perception of yourself. Trust your senses, but trust your judgment more. And remember, the mirror is not your enemy. It is an extension of yourself, albeit a distorted one. Marcus, still visibly shaken from previous exercises, volunteered first. He stepped forward, and the mirror's surface rippled faintly as if acknowledging his presence. At first, he saw only himself, pale and apprehensive. Then, slowly, the reflection twisted and contorted. Features elongated, expressions darkened, and a subtle, mocking grin formed on the mirror image's face. The doppelganger began to mimic Marcus's movements with a delay, exaggerating his gestures, taunting his insecurities. "Stand your ground," James instructed quietly. "Acknowledge it, but do not surrender to it." Marcus's voice trembled. What do you want from me?" The reflection's lips moved, but the sound was distorted, echoing unnaturally. "I am you. I am what you fear to be. Accept me. Deny me I exist in your hesitation." Marcus clenched his fists, taking a deep breath. Slowly, deliberately, he mirrored the reflection, matching its posture, its gaze. The room seemed to hold its breath. After moments that stretched like hours, the doppelganger's grin softened. Features realigned, and Marcus emerged from the encounter, shaking but composed. Emily's turn arrived next. She stepped forward, heart hammering, mind racing with anticipation and dread. The mirror rippled as she approached, its surface darkening subtly. Her reflection stared back at her, familiar yet alien. It blinked, smiled faintly, and then began to morph. The hollow-eyed version of herself from the previous mirror exercise emerged first, followed by shadows of her fears, failure, inadequacy, isolation, merging into a single figure. The doppelganger spoke in a voice that was unmistakably her own, yet distorted, layered with emotion she could not control. "You think you are ready, but you are fragile. You hide behind your courage, your intellect, your resolve. I am what you deny, what you bury, and I will not relent." Emily staggered backward, but Thomas's hand steadied her. "Face it," he urged softly. "You've done it before. You can do it again." She inhaled deeply, forcing herself to meet the gaze of her reflection. The shadows writhed around the edges of the glass, whispering, tugging at her focus. Panic clawed at her chest, but she held steady, focusing on her breath, on the sensations of the room, on the voice of reason that Thomas provided. "I am more than my fears," she whispered aloud. "I am more than what you represent." The mirror shuddered, the figure faltering for the first time. Emily's voice grew firmer, louder. "I accept you, but I do not surrender to you. You are part of me, but you do not control me." The doppelganger hesitated, then dissolved into the glass, leaving only Emily's true reflection staring back. She exhaled, trembling, a mixture of relief and exhilaration coursing through her. Thomas approached this mirror next, his expression resolute. His doppelganger emerged with slow, deliberate movements, a reflection not only of fear, but of anger, guilt, and moments he had long buried. It mocked him with past failures, whispered secrets he had kept hidden, and mimicked his every subtle movement with a cruel precision. Thomas's first instinct was to resist, to argue with the figure, but he remembered James's words. Trust yourself, acknowledge, but do not surrender. He took a deep breath, centering himself, and allowed the reflection to move, to speak, to exist. Then, deliberately, he matched its stance, acknowledged its presence without fear. Slowly, the mirror image faltered, its exaggerated movements growing uncertain. After what felt like an eternity, the doppelganger dissolved, leaving Thomas alone with his own true reflection. The rest of the students followed, each facing the mirror in turn. Some faltered, their fear evident, but the mirror required engagement, not surrender. One by one, they confronted their inner shadows, emerging changed, wiser, and more attuned to the subtle forces that the academy nurtured. When Emily and Thomas returned to their seats, both were pale but steady, their hearts still racing from the intensity of the exercise. James regarded them quietly. The doppelganger tests your perception of self. It reveals the cracks you hide, the fears you deny, the impulses you suppress. To engage it successfully requires honesty, courage, and clarity. Every student here is learning to navigate not only the external challenges of the academy, but the internal landscapes that define who they are. Never forget, the academy observes, but it also mirrors. It reflects not just fear, but understanding. Emily whispered to Thomas, voice barely audible. I never imagined it could be so personal, like it knew me, all of me, even the parts I try to hide. Thomas nodded. It did, and somehow, facing it made me feel stronger. But also, I don't know if I'll ever forget the way it looked at me. James's gaze swept over the classroom. The academy's influence is subtle but persistent. It shapes perception, heightens awareness, and tests courage. Lessons such as these are only the beginning. Those who endure, who engage with honesty and resolve, will uncover knowledge and insight that most will never glimpse. Those who falter may find the experience lingers, shaping them in ways they do not anticipate. The students began to write, recording their experiences with meticulous detail. Shadows in the room shifted, responding subtly to the emotional energy that filled the space. The academy, patient and discerning, observed, catalogued, and waited. Outside, the storm had abated completely, leaving a quiet gray morning. But within the halls of the academy, currents of unseen energy thrummed, whispering of challenges yet to come, lessons deeper and darker than any the students had faced. Emily closed her notebook, hands still trembling slightly. Do you think we'll ever get used to it? She asked Thomas. He shook his head, though a faint smile tugged at his lips. Maybe not, but I think that's the point. We're not supposed to get used to it. We're supposed to learn, adapt, and survive. James, standing quietly at the front, watched the exchange with a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Adaptation, he murmured to himself. Awareness. Courage. That is what the academy demands. And the deeper lessons, the real tests, are only beginning. As the students filed out for a brief respite, the mirrors shimmered faintly, shadows stretching and twisting in acknowledgement of their experiences. The academy's walls hummed with energy, alive, conscious, patient. Every reflection, every shadow, every whisper held meaning, memory, and intent. And in the quiet aftermath of the doppelganger exercise, one truth became clear. The academy's challenges were far from over, and the CRYPT course would push them to confront not only the unknown, but the very essence of themselves. Even as Emily and Thomas left the room, the sense of being observed persisted. The academy remembered, catalogued, and anticipated, and the shadows whispered secrets older than the town itself. Every heartbeat, every footstep, Every breath was noted, and the lessons to come would test them in ways that no journal, no notebook, no whispered warning could fully prepare them for. The storm outside may have passed, but within the walls of the academy, the tempest had only just begun. Even as the students descended the grand staircase to the lower floors, the academy seemed to shift subtly around them. The walls stretched and contracted imperceptibly. The floorboards creaked in patterns that suggested a rhythm of their own, and the faint scent of old stone and candle wax filled the air. The storm had passed, but the academy's own presence pulsed with life, a living entity that thrived on observation and interaction. Emily and Thomas felt it in every step, the weight of unseen eyes, the pull of corridors that seemed to bend, and the occasional flicker of movement in the corner of their vision that vanished when directly confronted. James Keller had announced that today's lesson would focus on sound as a vessel of perception, a discipline designed to hone the student's awareness of auditory anomalies. Sight is limited, he said, but sound can reach places vision cannot. The walls themselves can speak if you learn to listen. Every whisper, every creak, every echo contains meaning. Tonight, you will learn to hear the academy. The students gathered in a long, narrow hallway that stretched further than any of them had ever seen. Lanterns were set on brackets along the walls, flickering weakly and casting thin shadows that danced across peeling wallpaper. The hallway was lined with doors, each sealed with brass handles and aged locks, some warped by time, others hanging slightly ajar as if inviting intrusion. "You will walk this corridor blindfolded again," James instructed. "But this time, do not rely on touch alone. Listen. Every creak, every whisper, every subtle change in air pressure can guide you, mislead you, or warn you. Document everything you hear. Interpretation is crucial. The academy communicates in sound as much as in sight." Emily's stomach knotted. The blindfolded exercises had already tested her to the brink, forcing her to rely on instinct and touch. Now, the added layer of acute listening threatened to overwhelm her. She felt Thomas's hand tighten around hers as they prepared to step into the corridor. "Remember," he whispered, "focus on what you hear, not what you imagine. Let your instincts guide you." The first few steps were tentative, measured. The floorboards responded differently under their weight, some groaning sharply, others remaining silent, masking the presence of unseen forces. Faint whispers seemed to rise from the walls themselves, echoing in patterns that were impossible to map but compelling to follow. Emily caught a subtle vibration in the floor beneath her foot, a tremor so faint she almost missed it. She paused, placing her hand on the wall, feeling the wood respond to the rhythm of her heartbeat. The whispering intensified, layered now, as though multiple entities occupied the space simultaneously. Voices rose and fell, overlapping in a complex symphony. Soft murmurs of encouragement, faint laughter, and the occasional sharp hiss of warning. At a bend in the corridor, a low, almost imperceptible hum emanated from one of the doors. Emily felt it before she heard it, a vibration that resonated in her chest and spine. "Do you feel that?" she whispered. Thomas nodded, guiding her slowly forward. "It's the door. There's something behind it. But be careful. The academy will not reveal everything at once." She pressed her ear gently against the door and heard a faint pattern, a rhythm almost like breathing, punctuated by distant clicks and soft thuds. Her mind raced, analyzing the pattern. Was it an entity behind the door, or merely the building itself responding to the storm? Emily's fingers traced the brass handle, cold and smooth, resisting the pull to turn it too quickly. The hallway seemed to react to their focus. Shadows stretched along the walls, forming indistinct figures that appeared and disappeared with the flickering lantern light. Whispers became clearer, though still fragmented, urging, mocking, and occasionally instructing. Emily felt the strange compulsion to follow the instructions even when they made no sense. A faint, metallic tang filled the air, and she realized the academy was manipulating more than just their senses. It was probing their reactions, testing patience, resolve, and intuition. As they approached the midpoint of the hallway, the whispering coalesced into distinct phrases, audible enough to make them pause. Step carefully. Listen beyond the echoes. Some sounds are not what they seem. Emily's pulse quickened, a mixture of fear and excitement driving her forward. She leaned closer to the wall, attempting to discern subtleties in the echoes. Suddenly, a loud thump reverberated through the corridor. Emily jumped, her lantern swinging wildly and casting chaotic shadows. Thomas steadied her, whispering, "Stay focused. That was intended to startle you. Listen past it. Move forward slowly." The vibration of the floor shifted again, now a subtle, rhythmic pulse that seemed almost like a heartbeat. Emily realized she could track its rhythm, guiding her steps in sync with the subtle cues. The whispers continued, layered and complex, but she could discern their direction, the relative intensity, and the subtle changes in pitch that suggested proximity to different anomalies. At the end of the hallway, a small room awaited, its door slightly ajar. The pulsing vibration emanated more strongly here, accompanied by a faint, melodic hum that resonated within the walls. Emily and Thomas exchanged a tense glance before stepping inside. The room was small, almost a cell, with artifacts arranged in a deliberate pattern. Shelves held jars filled with strange substances, each humming faintly, interacting with the vibrations of the room. James appeared silently behind them. "You have successfully navigated the corridor using sound and intuition alone," he said. "Now you will interpret what you have encountered. Every vibration, every echo, every whisper has meaning. You must discern patterns, deduce intent, and record your observations accurately. The Academy communicates through these phenomena, and only those who listen attentively will understand its language." Emily approached one of the jars, holding her hand near it. The hum intensified, responding to her proximity. She realized that each artifact, each vibration, was like a node in a network, interacting with the others and forming a complex symphony of sound and resonance. Her notebook became a map of auditory cues, vibrations, and subtle shifts in frequency, a record of the Academy's silent dialogue. Thomas moved to another artifact, listening intently to the faint clicks and hums. He noted patterns, repetitions, and irregularities, comparing them to the rhythm of the corridor they had traversed. Together, they began to understand a larger structure, a hidden logic behind the chaos, as if the Academy itself were teaching them a language older than time. The exercise lasted hours. Each step, each sound, each pulse analyzed and recorded. The students emerged from the corridor weary, exhilarated, and transformed. Emily's senses were heightened, attuned to the faintest nuances of sound, vibration, and atmosphere. She realized that the Academy was not merely a building. It was a sentient environment, teaching, testing, and observing with patience and precision. James addressed the group. "Sound is more than a tool. It is a medium, a vessel of understanding, and a measure of perception. Those who can interpret it accurately gain insight into the Academy itself. Those who cannot remain lost, wandering corridors without comprehension, forever guided by echoes they do not understand. Tonight, you have demonstrated aptitude, but the challenges ahead will demand more. The Academy is patient, but it expects growth, adaptation, and vigilance." Emily and Thomas left the room together, notebooks full, minds racing with new understandings. The corridors, once threatening, now seemed to pulse with potential, a web of sound and resonance that could guide or deceive. They walked in silence for a time, each processing the experience in their own way. "I never imagined I could hear so much," Emily said quietly. "It's like the walls themselves were speaking, shaping everything around us." Thomas nodded. "It's more than sound. It's understanding. The Academy wants us to notice, interpret, and adapt. It's teaching us to be aware in ways I never thought possible." Outside, the morning had given way to a crisp, pale afternoon. Sunlight glinted off wet streets, and the world beyond the Academy seemed calm, ordinary, and unaware of the lessons being imparted within the walls. Yet, inside, the creep course continued, each day drawing the students deeper into the Academy's web, revealing new challenges, tests, and phenomena. The Academy's presence remained palpable, a living entity that observed, cataloged, and influenced every action. Shadows shifted subtly, artifacts hummed in quiet resonance, and the whispers lingered at the edges of perception, waiting for the students to engage, respond, and grow. Emily realized that the CRYPT course was no longer simply an academic exercise. It was a transformation, a molding of perception, courage, and understanding, forcing them to confront not only the Academy but the hidden aspects of themselves. The lessons would continue, each more intense than the last, guiding them through fear, uncertainty, and revelation. And as she and Thomas ascended the stairs to return to the main classroom, the Academy's walls seemed to breathe around them, alive with history, memory, and intent, promising that the trials ahead would challenge every sense, every instinct, and every shadow of the human mind. The Academy had a way of shifting the sense of time, compressing hours into minutes and stretching minutes into hours. By the time evening fell, a strange, dim, orange light filtered through the high windows, giving the halls an otherworldly glow. Emily and Thomas had spent the day documenting auditory patterns, tracing vibrations, and recording the subtle language of the Academy, yet both felt as if they had merely scratched the surface. James Keller entered the classroom with a serene but commanding presence, his eyes glinting with an almost imperceptible mischief. Tonight's lesson will challenge your perceptions in a way the previous exercises have only hinted at, he said. We call it the corridor of choices. Unlike prior tasks, you will not be guided. There are no lanterns, no notes, no explicit instructions. You will enter a maze of corridors and chambers, each offering a path forward or backward. Each decision you make shapes your journey, and each path holds lessons unique to those who dare to follow it. The Academy will respond to your choices. It will reward insight, punish hesitation, and reveal truths about yourselves you may not wish to acknowledge. Emily's pulse quickened. She glanced at Thomas, whose expression mirrored her mixture of anticipation and anxiety. "Do you think we can handle it?" she asked. Thomas offered a faint smile. "We've come this far. We'll handle it. Together." James led the class to the entrance of a vast hallway, its ceiling disappearing into shadows above, the floor a patchwork of worn tiles that echoed faintly underfoot. The walls were lined with doors of various sizes and conditions, some adorned with cryptic symbols, others marred by cracks and chipped paint. The hallway extended far beyond the reach of the eye, the vanishing point obscured by dim light and shadow. "You will enter individually," James instructed. "Do not follow one another. Do not rely on memory alone. Trust perception, trust instinct, and above all, trust judgment. The first to reach the end of the corridor will demonstrate mastery over observation, decision-making, and the subtle influence of the Academy. Failure is a lesson as much as success." Emily took a deep breath, tightening her grip on her notebook and flashlight. Thomas gave her a reassuring nod before stepping into the first corridor. Emily followed moments later, the floor cool beneath her feet, the air thick with tension. The corridor of choices immediately presented challenges. Doors to the left and right offered no hints of what lay beyond. Some doors whispered faintly when approached, as if inviting attention or tempting the curious. Shadows shifted along the walls, forming fleeting shapes that dissolved when acknowledged. The faint scent of candle wax and damp stone mixed with an unfamiliar metallic tang, compelling Emily to proceed carefully. She stopped at the first junction, listening. The silence was broken by faint murmurs that seemed to emanate from multiple directions. Some voices sounded like past students. Others were distorted, alien, impossible to place. Emily forced herself to focus, recalling James's lessons. Intuition and pattern recognition, the subtle cues of the Academy, and the reliance on more than just sight. She chose the left door, its wood cold and rough beneath her hand. The chamber beyond was narrow and low-ceilinged, its walls etched with strange runes that pulsed faintly in response to her presence. A subtle hum vibrated through the floor, almost like a heartbeat, growing stronger as she advanced. Emily felt the Academy's awareness, as if it were measuring her choices, evaluating her reactions. A shadow flickered across the room. She froze, heart pounding, convinced she had imagined it. Then the whisper came, soft but insistent. You choose carefully, or you falter. Emily swallowed hard, forcing herself forward. The floorboards groaned underfoot, and the walls seemed to close in, the runes glowing brighter as if responding to her anxiety and determination. The hum grew louder, more insistent, each step echoing through the chamber with a resonant clarity that demanded attention. At the end of the room, another doorway awaited. This one had no handle, only a faintly glowing outline, suggesting it could be opened with concentration rather than force. Emily reached toward it, and the door responded to her touch, slowly swinging open to reveal a long corridor beyond. Shadows danced along the walls, elongated and distorted, forming shapes that resembled figures she recognized. Herself, Thomas, past exercises, and fears she had tried to suppress. She pressed forward, listening to the subtle rhythm of her steps against the tiles, noting changes in vibration and air currents. Each subtle variation informed her decision, guiding her toward the correct path. Yet the Academy continued to test her. A faint draft tugged at her hair and clothing, and whispers intensified, merging into a chorus that threatened to overwhelm her focus. Turn back, choose differently, falter, and learn. Emily shook her head, forcing clarity. I will not falter, she whispered aloud. I choose forward, carefully, deliberately. The corridor seemed to respond, the shadows retreating slightly, the whispering fading to faint murmurs. Ahead, a chamber opened, larger than any she had encountered. Its ceiling arched high with faded frescoes depicting scenes of unknown rituals and abstract forms that seemed to shift when observed indirectly. The floor was scattered with objects, broken mirrors, glass shards, small jars filled with colored powders, and artifacts she could not immediately identify. Emily paused, absorbing every detail. James had taught observation, pattern recognition, and intuition, but now all skills had to converge. She moved carefully among the objects, noting vibrations, echoes, and subtle visual cues. The shadows on the walls responded to her movements, mimicking her gestures for a moment before dissolving into darkness. A sudden noise, a crash as if a jar had fallen, made her flinch. Her pulse spiked, but she steadied herself. Nothing moved except the shadows that followed her carefully, and she realized that the Academy itself had orchestrated the noise, testing her focus and composure. Emily moved deeper into the chamber, noticing patterns in the arrangement of the objects, vibrations that suggested the correct path, and subtle cues in the flickering shadows. She understood that the corridor of choices was not merely a test of courage or instinct, but of discernment, of learning to separate illusion from reality, perception from manipulation. The exit of the chamber revealed yet another corridor, narrower, dimmer, with doors on either side that hummed faintly in response to her presence. Emily paused, listening carefully. One door pulsed with a low, resonant vibration that seemed safe. The other emitted a high-pitched, dissonant hum that triggered unease in her chest. She recalled the lessons on sound, shadow, and intuition, and chose the first, letting instinct guide her steps. The door opened to a vast chamber that stretched beyond sight, its ceiling disappearing into darkness. A single lantern floated mid-air, unconnected to any wall or ceiling, casting a warm but flickering glow. Emily approached cautiously. The shadows here were different, elongated and almost corporeal, forming figures that mimicked past mistakes, fears, and moments of hesitation. She realized these were echoes of her own experiences, captured and reflected by the Academy to test endurance and clarity. Emily took a deep breath, steadying her racing heart. She recalled every lesson, every subtle cue, every moment of perception honed over the past days. Shadows mimicked her gestures, but she did not falter. Whispered warnings continued, layered and persistent, but she followed the rhythm of the floor, the vibration of the walls, and the pulse of her own heartbeat as a guide.
Finally, a doorway appeared at the far end of the chamber, faintly glowing and unadorned. She moved toward it, each step deliberate, attuned to every subtle cue. The shadows retreated slightly, and the whispering faded to a low hum, almost approving. Emily reached the door, opening it carefully, and emerged into a small, warmly lit room. The door closed behind her, leaving the hallway and the challenges behind, for now. Thomas appeared moments later, equally pale and shaken, yet triumphant. They exchanged relieved glances, their exhaustion tempered by exhilaration. The corridor of choices had tested them as no previous lesson had. Instinct, perception, discernment, and courage had all been challenged simultaneously.
James entered the room quietly, observing them with calm authority. The corridor of choices demonstrates that every path we take is both literal and metaphorical. The Academy responds to choices, testing perception, judgment, and courage. Those who navigate successfully learn to trust intuition, interpret subtle cues, and discern reality from illusion. Those who fail learn lessons through reflection and repetition. Tonight, you have demonstrated growth. Take this knowledge with you. The Academy's challenges are not merely physical, but intellectual, perceptual, and emotional.
Emily and Thomas sank into chairs, notebooks clutched to their chests, hearts still racing. The lesson had been exhausting, yet illuminating. They had learned to trust themselves and each other, to read the Academy's subtle cues, and to discern reality from manipulation.
Outside, the afternoon sun had waned, giving way to a deep, velvety twilight. The Academy remained alive, aware, patient, and calculating, preparing new challenges, new corridors, and new tests for those who dared to engage its mysteries. Emily understood now that every shadow, every whisper, every vibration carried meaning, and every choice had consequence. The CRYPT course was shaping not just perception but understanding itself, molding the students in ways that would reveal themselves slowly, inevitably, and profoundly. Even as they prepared to leave the chamber, Emily and Thomas knew that the Academy had only just begun. The corridors, shadows, whispers, and echoes promised lessons more intense, more intricate, and more perilous than any they had yet encountered. And in the quiet, dimming light, one truth became evident. Survival required not just courage, but perception, discernment, and the ability to navigate a world in which every shadow might hold a secret, and every choice could shape the path ahead. The night settled over Willow Creek like a heavy velvet curtain, muffling the sounds of the outside world and concentrating the Academy's energy inward. The students returned to the central chamber for a brief debriefing, but Emily could feel the lingering echoes of the corridor of choices still clinging to her mind. Every sound, every shadow, every subtle vibration replayed vividly, and she knew that tonight's lesson would leave traces in her perception for days, perhaps longer. James Keller entered the chamber silently, his presence immediately commanding attention. The light in the room seemed to shift subtly in response, shadows lengthening and contracting as though bending to his will. He moved slowly along the rows of students, his gaze settling on Emily and Thomas with a particular intensity that made her pulse quicken. "Tonight, you have faced the corridor, confronted choices, and navigated illusions," he said. "But the Academy's lessons do not end with perception alone. There is a higher level of awareness, one that requires engagement not just of the mind or senses, but of presence itself. Lesson 9 is called The Echoes of Intent. Here, you will discover that every action, conscious or subconscious, leaves an imprint upon the Academy. It observes, catalogs, and reacts to intention. Your thoughts, fears, desires, and hesitation are all noted, and tomorrow you will see how the echoes of your actions shape reality itself." Emily exchanged a glance with Thomas. The lessons had grown progressively more intense, each blurring the line between the physical and the psychological, the real and the imagined. The idea that the Academy could react to intention itself made her stomach tighten, yet it also carried a strange, tantalizing promise. A deeper understanding of this sentient environment they were navigating. James gestured toward the long, curved staircase descending into darkness. "Below lies the Hall of Resonance," he explained. "It is a place where the echoes of your choices manifest. You will enter individually, and you will witness the tangible results of your actions. Every hesitation, every instinct, every deliberate movement will produce ripples that you must interpret and navigate. The hall reacts to both clarity and confusion. Prepare yourselves and remember, awareness is survival. Emily stepped forward cautiously, her notebook and flashlight clutched tightly. The air in the stairwell was cool, damp, and almost tangible with expectation. Shadows twisted along the stone walls, forming patterns that suggested movement yet resisted definition. Each step downward amplified the sense of immersion. The echoes of her prior exercises seemed to resonate within the stairwell, multiplying and layering in ways that were both disorienting and compelling. At the base of the staircase, a vast chamber unfolded, the ceilings impossibly high, vanishing into darkness. The room was lined with alcoves, each containing strange, translucent forms that shifted constantly, some humanoid, some entirely abstract, all pulsing with faint light and energy. The floor was polished stone, reflecting the flickering illumination above, and faint currents of sound, vibration, and scent seemed to emanate from every surface simultaneously. Emily advanced slowly, senses alert. She noted the interactions of the light, shadows, and forms, realizing that the Academy had created a complex, multi-layered environment where every action would generate subtle changes. Her first steps produced faint ripples in the air, almost imperceptible, but she could sense them as shifts in pressure, temperature, and tone. Each movement, each glance, each thought seemed to reverberate, forming patterns that the room absorbed and reflected back. A whisper echoed from an alcove ahead, soft but insistent. Observe. Act. Interpret. Do not falter. Emily felt the words resonate within her chest, aligning with the rhythm of her heartbeat. She paused, focusing her attention, and noticed a faint shimmer in one of the translucent forms. It moved in response to her gaze, bending and stretching as if alive, a reflection not of her physical presence, but of her intent. Emily realized with a shiver that the forms were echoes, manifestations of the student's own choices, decisions, and hesitations. Each form carried traces of past lessons, interactions, and emotional responses. A wrong interpretation, a lapse in focus, or a misaligned intent could produce disturbances, potentially creating obstacles or misleading signals. She proceeded carefully, attuning herself to the subtle feedback. A translucent figure in the shape of a student hunched forward as she approached, shimmering in response to her careful movements. Emily noted its reactions, interpreting the shifts in light, vibration, and subtle temperature changes. Every step became a dialogue, an intricate negotiation between her awareness and the environment. A sudden pulse reverberated through the chamber, disorienting her briefly. The shadows flickered violently, and whispers rose in volume and intensity. Hesitate. Falter. Misjudge. Emily's pulse spiked, but she drew on her experiences from the corridor of choices, centering herself, aligning her focus, and responding deliberately. The pulse passed, leaving the forms stable again, shimmering faintly in acknowledgement of her awareness. As she moved deeper into the hall of resonance, the echoes became more complex. Multiple figures now interacted with one another, creating overlapping patterns of light, vibration, and whispering. Emily noted subtle cues indicating which paths were safe, which required cautious maneuvering, and which demanded immediate retreat. The Academy had transformed intention into a tangible force, shaping reality and guiding perception simultaneously. Emily paused at a particularly dense cluster of forms. Each figure reflected moments of hesitation, fear, and decision-making from earlier exercises. Their combined presence produced subtle turbulence in the air, causing the shadows to flicker and the whispers to overlap chaotically. She realized that her next move would require deliberate clarity and unwavering focus. One misstep could amplify the echoes, creating a cascade of disorientation. Taking a deep breath, Emily centered herself, focusing on intention alone. She moved deliberately, acknowledging each form with her gaze and body language, allowing the echoes to respond. The turbulence subsided, replaced by a delicate harmony of light, sound, and vibration. The forms pulsed gently, then aligned in a coherent pattern, forming a corridor of stable echoes leading forward. Emily advanced, noting every detail, documenting patterns, and maintaining awareness of the subtle feedback. The Hall of Resonance was alive, not with threat alone, but with the interplay of consciousness and environment. She realized that the Academy's true lesson was not merely to survive challenges, but to understand the consequences of choices, the power of observation, and the delicate balance between action and reaction. Ahead, a large doorway emerged, its frame adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to ripple and shimmer in response to her presence. Emily approached cautiously, noting subtle vibrations in the floor and walls, as well as the alignment of the translucent forms leading toward it. She understood that this doorway represented a culmination of the exercise, a threshold where the echoes of intention would either affirm her comprehension or expose lingering uncertainties. As she stepped closer, the forms shifted slightly, aligning perfectly with her movement, a reflection of successful engagement. The doorway opened smoothly, revealing a small chamber bathed in warm, diffused light. Within, an alcove contained a single artifact, a small, crystalline orb, pulsing faintly with inner light. Emily approached, feeling an almost tangible resonance emanating from it. The whispers in the chamber had faded, leaving only a gentle, steady hum, as if the Academy itself were acknowledging her mastery. Emily reached out, her fingers brushing the surface of the orb. A wave of warmth and subtle vibration coursed through her, and she realized that the orb was a repository of collective echoes, an amalgamation of choices, intentions, and awareness, distilled into a tangible form. She felt a profound connection to the Academy, to the lessons learned, and to the delicate interplay of perception, action, and consequence. Thomas appeared at the doorway moments later, eyes wide with similar awe. "You made it," he whispered. I didn't think I would understand it this clearly." Emily nodded, still attuned to the subtle vibrations and the faint hum of the orb. It's not just about navigating the hall. It's about understanding ourselves and how every choice ripples outward. The Academy isn't just testing us. It's teaching us to perceive intention as reality. James Keller entered quietly, his gaze settling on Emily and Thomas with a faint, approving smile. Lesson 9 demonstrates that perception alone is insufficient. One must engage with awareness, clarity, and intention. Every choice creates echoes. Every hesitation has consequences. The Academy measures, responds, and adapts. Those who comprehend this gain insight into not only the environment, but the very nature of decision and consequence. Those who fail will find the echoes of their uncertainty amplified in ways that cannot be ignored. Emily and Thomas took a moment to absorb the significance of the exercise. The Hall of Resonance had revealed layers of understanding that surpassed anything they had previously encountered. The interconnectedness of action and consequence, the tangible manifestation of intention, and the delicate dance between perception and reality. As they prepared to leave the chamber, Emily felt a renewed sense of purpose. The Academy's challenges were not merely physical or psychological, they were philosophical, demanding engagement at the deepest levels of awareness. She understood now that each lesson, each corridor, each whisper was a step toward mastering not just the environment, but herself. The night outside had deepened into full darkness, the Academy glowing faintly against the moonlit sky. Shadows clung to the walls, and whispers lingered in the corners of perception, subtle and insistent, hinting at challenges yet to come. Emily and Thomas knew that the lessons were far from over. The Academy, patient and calculating, continued to observe, catalog, and shape every choice, every action, and every intention. In the quiet aftermath of the Hall of Resonance, one truth was undeniable. Mastery of the CRYPT course required not just courage and perception, but insight, discernment, and an unwavering understanding of the rippling consequences of every thought and action. Emily realized that the academy had become a mirror, reflecting not only her choices, but her very essence, and the path ahead promised challenges that would test every facet of her awareness, resolve, and intuition. The morning following, the Hall of Resonance felt unnaturally still. Even the wind outside seemed hesitant, brushing the treetops in soft, almost reluctant whispers. Emily awoke in her room, her mind replaying the events of the previous night. Every shadow, every vibration, and every echo of intention she had encountered resonated vividly in her memory. She rose quietly, careful not to disturb Thomas, who slept in the adjacent bed, and made her way to the small desk where her notebook lay open, pages brimming with observations, sketches, and analyses. As she read over her notes, a sense of anticipation settled over her. Lesson 10 was approaching, and she could feel it in the air, a subtle shift in the Academy's atmosphere, a tightening of purpose, and a lingering tension that suggested a new level of challenge awaited. The Academy thrived on escalation, and each step forward seemed to demand greater acuity, deeper focus, and more precise interaction with the environment. Thomas joined her shortly, carrying a single lantern, its light wavering faintly. "You awake early," he murmured, glancing at the notebook. "Still processing the Hall of Resonance?" Emily nodded. "It's like every choice I made is echoing back at me. I can still feel the room responding to my intentions." She paused, tapping a page filled with intricate diagrams of shadows, light patterns, and vibrations. "I think the Academy wants us to understand that perception isn't enough. It's about how we act and what those actions leave behind." Thomas studied her notes with interest. "It's unsettling, but fascinating. I've never encountered anything like it. The way the Academy responds, it's almost alive." The bell signaling the start of lessons rang, sharp and sudden, cutting through the quiet. Students filed into the main hall, faces tense, minds alert. James Keller appeared at the front, his presence commanding attention as always. "Lesson 10, he announced, is the Labyrinth of Shadows. You will navigate the Academy under conditions that test not only perception and action, but memory, instinct, and resilience. Shadows will take forms beyond comprehension, echoes will mislead, and the environment will respond to your deepest fears. The labyrinth is more than corridors. It is a living entity, a test of both mind and spirit. Proceed with awareness, and do not allow doubt to guide you." The students were led to the entrance of the labyrinth, a massive, arching doorway whose edges were carved with geometric patterns that seemed to shift subtly as they approached. Emily's heart thumped in her chest as she crossed the threshold. The air inside was thick and cool, carrying a faint scent of earth and decay. Shadows pooled along the walls, coalescing into shifting shapes that moved just beyond the reach of vision. From the moment she stepped inside, Emily felt the labyrinth respond to her presence. The walls seemed to pulse faintly, subtle vibrations resonating through the stone floor. Shadows elongated and contracted in response to her movements, forming figures that hinted at past lessons, previous fears, and suppressed doubts. The labyrinth was alive, aware of every hesitation, every step, and every heartbeat. A low, almost imperceptible whisper echoed through the corridor. "Trust your instincts. Trust your mind. But do not be guided by fear." Emily paused, listening carefully. The whisper shifted slightly as she focused, moving from one end of the corridor to another, suggesting patterns and direction without explicitly revealing them. She realized the labyrinth would test her ability to interpret subtle cues, to differentiate between guidance and deception. She advanced slowly, noting the interplay of shadows and light. Some shadows mimicked her movements exactly, creating a disorienting mirror effect. Others twisted and distorted, forming grotesque shapes that seemed to leer at her, challenging her courage and composure. Every step required concentration, and every decision carried the potential to mislead or guide her further into the labyrinth. A sudden shift in the floor beneath her feet made Emily stumble slightly, and a shadow flickered across the wall in a way that seemed almost sentient. She caught her balance and focused on the vibrations she could sense, the faint hum in the walls, and the subtle patterns in the shadows. The labyrinth was testing more than her perception. It was probing her ability to remain centered under psychological pressure. Emily reached a fork in the corridor. Both paths appeared equally viable, yet subtle cues in the shadows and vibrations suggested one was safer. She paused, recalling the lessons of the Hall of Resonance. Intention shapes the environment. Clarity amplifies perception. Hesitation magnifies fear. She chose the path guided by deliberate focus, moving carefully and observing every change in shadow, sound, and vibration. The corridor narrowed, and shadows became more complex, layering upon one another to form dense, nearly impenetrable shapes. Emily's heartbeat quickened, but she remained steady, listening to the faint murmurs that hinted at both danger and guidance. A deep, resonant pulse vibrated through the floor, a warning, or perhaps a test of her ability to respond without panic. She aligned her steps with the rhythm, letting it guide her movements without dictating them entirely. As she progressed, the labyrinth began to play tricks on her memory. She encountered passages she thought she had already traversed, only to realize subtle differences in vibration, shadow, or echo indicated new paths. The maze was not static. It adapted, reacted, and evolved based on her presence and choices. Emily noted these nuances carefully, updating her mental map and maintaining awareness of the cumulative effect of her actions. A sudden, sharp whisper caused her to flinch. "Do you fear what you cannot see? Do you trust what you cannot hear?" The words echoed, fragmented and distorted, amplifying her sense of disorientation. Emily steadied herself, centering on breath and awareness. Fear could manipulate perception, but deliberate focus and interpretation could counteract it. She pressed forward, tracing subtle vibrations in the floor and walls, allowing them to inform her path. The corridor opened into a large chamber, its ceiling obscured in darkness. Shadows moved independently, forming shapes that resembled figures she knew, Thomas, James herself, but all distorted, twisted, reflecting her subconscious anxieties. Emily recognized that the labyrinth was externalizing her fears, forcing her to confront them directly. She moved slowly, observing each shadow's response to her presence. Some forms seemed hostile, others passive, yet all carried subtle cues in their movement and vibration. She realized the lesson was as much about self-understanding as navigation. To progress, she had to acknowledge fear without succumbing to it, to interpret the echoes of the labyrinth without becoming trapped by their illusions. At the far end of the chamber, a faintly glowing doorway beckoned. Its edges shimmered in response